Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you are, and welcome to the webinar today. My name is Elise Arthurs, and I'm the Director of Partner Marketing at RightScale. I'm excited to kick off today's webinar with our very strategic partner, Rackspace, how to build a better way of delivering IT. Before we get started with the webinars, we always do a couple poll questions, and that gives us an idea of who's attending the webinar today. So we'll start with those, and I just ask you to spend a couple seconds giving us answers to those questions, and then we'll find out who's on the call today. The first one is about where you are in your cloud adoption process. Are you just getting started? Are you just trying a little bit of cloud usage so far? Are you really using it in your organization at this point, broad usage? Or you're well beyond that and you've become real cloud experts with a lot of usage in your organization? So if you can take a moment and answer that, then we'll look at the results. Looks like we just need a couple more moments here. People are answering. Well, this is a good mix of folks with quite a few folks just getting started, but a nice mix of different levels of adoption across the board here. Okay, now we'll go to our next poll. And that's about what role you play in your organization. Are you on the application development side? Are you a sysadmin, more in the architecture side of things, or on the business or IT side? So if you could take a couple moments with that. We'll show the answers just shortly here. It looks like they're starting to come in. Okay. Very interesting. I think this is probably what we would expect, that there's more of the sysadmin to the IT management side of things on the call today versus the developers. I mean, this is really very much about how do you construct a hybrid IT strategy. So we're glad to have those kinds of folks on the call today. Now, this is our last poll, and that is about where you are with regard to building a hybrid cloud. Are you already started? Are you well on your way? Or are you just starting to do the research, get educated, or are you not even there yet? So if you could answer that one for us, that'd be much appreciated. I see the answers coming in here, so we'll just give it a couple more moments. Okay. All right. So we've got a decent amount of folks who've already started and those who haven't. I think that based on those answers, we'll be able to do a little bit more tailoring on the content to make sure that we're just really providing the in-depth descriptions about how we recommend building out a hybrid cloud and making sure that we're not only talking at a very high level for those who have already gotten to the point of starting, but for those who haven't yet. So I think we'll be able to address the audience's interests based on where you are pretty well with this content. So I'd like to now introduce our panelists. We have Nikki Acosta. She's a cloud evangelista at Rackspace. She has really deep expertise on the Rackspace cloud and their hosted product portfolio. She's been with Rackspace for quite some time. She is a really frequent speaker on the different cloud industry events, and she blogs quite a bit. And she's known as a cloud industry veteran, so we're really happy to have her on the webinar today. And then we have Paul Marani, who leads up our relationship with Rackspace from the RightScale perspective, and he has 15 years of experience with IT and has building out new IT offerings in his most recent years of experience. And Ryan Geyer is also joining the webinar today. He'll be doing our demo for us, which he is very, very good at doing. And he's a cloud solutions engineer at RightScale, and he is always trying new things. Many of you maybe on this webinar have read some of his blogs. He likes playing with new technology, especially in his garage. So he's built a couple different private clouds in his garage, and he can answer questions if you have any about that at the end of the webinar. And then we also have Parker Turlock. He's an account manager for RightScale. He's based in Texas near the Rackspace team, and he'll be taking your questions and answering them in real time during the course of the webinar. So I want to remind you that you can use the questions window on the webinar panel during the entire webinar, and he'll answer your questions live, as well as he'll take questions, and we'll keep them until the end when Nikki and Paul and Ryan will do a round robin and do some live Q&A. And with that, I'll hand it off to Paul, who will get us started on the webinar.
Thanks, Elise, and hi everybody. Welcome joining our webinar in regards to building a better way to delivering IT to the business. Obviously with the massive innovation and maturation of cloud technologies and services in the IT community over the past couple of years, there really is obviously no better time than the present to really look at building flexibility and resiliency in your business strategy. When you incorporate the latest in cloud technology, you can optimize your infrastructure and applications to enable rapid deployment, elegantly handle demand, and really, bottom line, get to market faster. Today, the agenda will cover the open model of OpenStack, why build cloud-aware applications, how do you help make cloud your very own, and really leveraging a unified management and automation platform in building these hybrid environments, followed by Brian Geyer giving you a demo of the RightScale framework running on the Rackspace private and public clouds, and Q&A that Elise just mentioned. So with that, let me take it over to Nikki to kick off the topics on OpenStack and the open cloud model.
Thanks, Paul. So hello, everybody. Great to be here today along with our partners here at RightScale. So I'm going to take you through our vision. Ultimately, at Rackspace, we believe in this open cloud vision. We're founders of OpenStack, and we provide expertise and experience in providing management, operations, and support for both public and private cloud environments. What we're hearing from customers is that they want the ability to mix and match resources to fit the needs of their applications, to fit budgetary sort of limitations, or to define workloads that can span public and private clouds. A big priority for the OpenStack open source community, of which RightScale and Rackspace are participants, is to interconnect these resources. Given that Rackspace operates the largest public clouds powered by OpenStack and many private clouds that can be hosted and remotely operated in any data center in the world, we emerge as experts when it comes to managing and operating infrastructure as a service. Next slide, please. So here's an overview of our portfolio, and it's sort of split into a few categories here, but I'll take you through kind of a logical divide here. First, there's public cloud, which we've been at for a few years, and then there's also private cloud powered by OpenStack. Last but not least, there's also our dedicated hosting business, which we've been at for over a decade. Within that sort of dedicated hosting business, we also have a large number of virtualized customers, as well as a product called RackConnect. And RackConnect basically bridges together your public cloud resources and your dedicated resources, but it's sort of confined to resources that are located within one of our data centers. A good example for, or a good use case for RackConnect might be a robust database on dedicated gear that's combined with public cloud web and app servers that can scale to meet traffic demands or spiky workloads. What RightScale does is they provide functionality across public, private, and our RackConnect product sets. Next slide. So here's kind of how we work with RightScale. As I mentioned earlier, we're experts in infrastructure as a service, but we've partnered with RightScale because they're the leaders in cloud management when it comes to your applications. So RightScale, as of a couple of days ago, is now fully integrated with Rackspace's public and private clouds powered by OpenStack. That allows our users to basically manage their applications across public and private resources, regardless of where they're located. This also abstracts a lot of the complexity away from users who have a multi-cloud strategy. For those of you that are attending the OpenStack Summit next week or the RightScale Compute Conference in the next couple of weeks, feel free to ping me on Twitter or follow up with me there. I can be pinged at Nikki Acosta. That's with 1K, N-I-K-I, Acosta. We love talking about this stuff, and we look forward to meeting you. That's a shameless plug there. So I will turn it over back to Paul Marani to discuss how you can take advantage of our combined expertise for true hybrid cloud functionality and hybrid cloud application management.
Great, thank you, Nikki. So next slide. So I'm going to just kind of go through what I think are some of the most basic steps that one needs to consider when going into this enterprise class or hybrid cloud type model. And it really begins and ends with the application. So making your applications cloud aware is the first step in truly optimizing the cloud. When you create cloud aware applications, you build in features so your applications can dynamically scale, enable failover, run on any infrastructure, and quickly change as needed based on the business demands that are placed upon you. This is really a flip from the traditional model of leading with infrastructure. You can, which can limit the agility of your application. In the traditional role, such as with VMware examples here on the right side, one builds functionality based on the hypervisor. Additional management tools are there to help better manage those environments. But in the end, the infrastructure is built to a certain number of nines, if you will, and then the application is layered on and told to live in this world that has been created for them. It's a relatively closed model. Each layer is dependent on the underlying layer. And if you remove, one of those underlying infrastructure layers or hypervisor, the stack kind of collapses. On the left-hand side, in the cloud approach, the design is top-down. The application is king, and it dictates to the underlying infrastructure on when, how, and what level it is to be consumed. This is more of the open model, meaning that it's designed to be iterative and allow flexibility of choice in the stack. With many of the hypervisor features that many folks have grown accustomed to, specifically, for example, just within VMware, vMotion, HA, and fault tolerance, are now handled at a much higher level in the stack. The application, the cloud manager, and the orchestration level are offering the control not only at the OS but the entire application stack. So, to really take advantage and get to that application-centric model, one must look at unbundling their applications from the traditional model and really put them in scripts so they can run specific functions during the life cycle as to during ongoing operations or termination. There's really no silver bullet for this transition, but we have the expertise with RightScale and Rackspace. We have pre-built assets, and we can help you along the way to get there much sooner. So in the end, the main message here to take away is when you begin with the application, it provides increases in automation, consistency, and choice on the cloud that you're utilizing. It really just allows you to fully leverage everything that the cloud model has been, pitched to say to the marketplace. Next slide. So once you come to that determination of the application, now it's like, okay, I need to go build my cloud. And the great thing about building private cloud specifically is you can define the cloud and make it your own. There's no denying the influence public clouds have had in the delivery of IT to the businesses. And internal IT is seeking to create internal systems based on existing hardware and infrastructure they've already invested in to provide these on-demand access to resources. There are many reasons why people build their own private cloud. Some of them are just for, hey, I need better performance than what I can get in a public cloud. I want to stay on a CapEx versus the OpEx cost model, compliance. There's a whole slew of reasons. But a proven private cloud configuration architecture developed by Rackspace and powered by OpenStack can dramatically speed up your effort. They have a private cloud solution that you can download and literally in minutes have a baseline OpenStack private cloud up and running. It leverages commodity hardware, KVM hypervisor, It layers on and gives you the OpenStack Rackspace Private Cloud UI, and then you can layer in RightScale on top of that. So we, excuse me. So really, by combining all these solutions, this will really enable your team to speed up their process and create happy customers and emulate kind of this fast provisioning demand solution that your customers are asking for. Next slide, please. So once you build out your own cloud, unified management becomes critically important. Because as enterprises begin the journey of building a private cloud, they really always mean hybrid. Hybrid clouds provide the best of both worlds. And with the hybrid cloud model, you maximize existing investment within your own data center in capital expenses and gain the power of public cloud resources when needed. The hybrid framework enables your team to take full advantage and benefits of an on-demand public and the performance of a private cloud and view it as one. Kind of like build to the base and expand to the peak. RightScale and Rackspace integrated offerings in this model are really unique and allow you to easily construct and manage low latency hybrid models. And you can see here, with RightScale cloud management platform, you have some of the key elements of RightScale: configuration management, automation, and governance, and all that will allow you to manage your applications within the Rackspace public or private cloud and really make it look like one. Next slide, please. So just a little case study. Behance, which is part of Adobe, is one of our joint customers. Behance is a platform that allows a lot of creative professionals to build and update their pretty massive portfolios on their website. They can publish it here, and they can very quickly move it and have it appear on just about any place the web will allow them to post it. Again, a lot of imagery and data with over 10 million users accessing the site every month. The challenge is, again, they had the high imagery storage, content, need for high database performance, and really needed to get that high-end performance along with the automation and consistency across their middleware applications. They started originally with Rackspace, and Rackspace provided them that hybrid cloud model of cloud servers and dedicated servers. It's the solution they can refer to as Rack Connect. And when they put that in place, they got everything they needed, and they wanted to go to the next step, which is really to streamline provisioning and configuration. The ability to create and deploy new applications using RightScripts and to easily share those configurations and deploy them in production was a really big game changer that allowed them to leverage that Rackspace cloud infrastructure even further. They were able to meet demand in real time, so when the site got loaded with many users, the environment could really just take in that load, expand, and at times when middle of the night when people aren't on it, it can shrink itself back down. So it's really truly the application self-adjusting itself without any human interaction at all. Behance really only has a couple of people at the controls for an environment that literally scales into the hundreds of servers on a daily basis. And so their CTO constantly mentions how much they would never be able to have this automation or functionality with the headcount they have for this project if it wasn't for the combination of Rackspace cloud servers and Rackspace. And they'll actually be attending the RightScale conference later this month in San Francisco. Next slide, please. the end, and the goal that people are really looking for in their applications is this workload liberation, the ability to have your applications run anywhere. The flexibility you gain is really an iterative application-led lifecycle management approach versus a rip and replace infrastructure approach, which keeps your choices open. You can literally mix and match public, private, hybrid clouds to really precisely match your business needs. You have a multiple of cloud filters that people make decisions on, from proximity, cost, performance, compliance, and many other things. And as Nikki mentioned previously, Rackspace can provide you with the choice to run your clouds in various ways and physical locations that are truly unmatched in the marketplace. You can have your own private cloud located at your facility or a colo provider. You can have one hosted at Rackspace in any one of their global locations, or you could really use any one of their public clouds around the world. The combination of RightScale on top of that automates and optimizes the application to work in any of these environments from a single template, which we'll talk about further later on, and the single pane of glass that everyone's trying to find. Our teams have the deep experience in the integration on how best to help you develop and migrate your application into this application-centric cloud architecture. Next slide, please. So as the journey to the cloud is really one of maturity. How far you want to go and what is the right need and outcome desired for your business, well, that's really up to you. The main thing is that if you understand the maturity curve up front, it'll kind of help you determine what you want to be when you grow up. So I'll take a few moments and talk about kind of what I mean by each of the steps listed here. So the first is provisioning time. So, a lot of people go to the cloud because, I can launch a server very quickly. So if all you do is launch a server to the OS or bootstrap a server image, you definitely improved the speed of getting a server to work in minutes versus potentially weeks that we hear from most people and entering their own IT tickets. But other than that, you've really only moved from a CapEx model to an OpEx model. As you move a little further up the chart, you get into server automation and launching servers via scripts and recipes and cookbooks, let's say with Chef, allow you to now launch a server to the entire application stack. Still a static server without knowledge of other servers and its deployment that it must work with, but now you're getting not just building to an OS, but a fully application-built server upon launch. And then the next stage is getting into this multi-cloud hybrid cloud. And this is where the use of templates come in. The ability to build and maintain in one place and use anywhere is a major milestone versus managing image sprawl in the traditional world. Additionally, the ability to provide governance across all your resource clouds with financial visibility, user permissions, and reporting is a widely growing need after people start getting their initial feet wet in the cloud. And then lastly is really the application automation. And this is what we believe is the ultimate goal. To achieve this level, it requires the combination of functions incorporating deep, meaningful API integration, which Rackspace and RightScale have been working so diligently at, allowing the synchronization across, launching and destroying of servers, incorporating configuration management, such as, Chef and Puppet that we mentioned earlier, or any other language that you're comfortable in scripting in. The use of templates in combination with monitoring and alerting. Only this combination of functions really provides the automated application awareness, be highly available, self-healing, and scalable all on its own. And this really enables you to focus on continuous optimization. Now you've mastered your way all the way to the top, the effort and focus has shifted from maintaining the infrastructure to the continuous optimization of your applications and business. And Rackspace and RightScale really just kind of carry that whole gamut of from just being able to launch a server to how do I get into this continuous optimization mode. We'll go there. So I hope that gives a nice view, at least from our perspective, of how companies are really looking at this maturity curve and how they can best use and leverage the cloud and layer their applications on top of that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Geyer, our cloud engineer here at RightScale, to run through a demo and talk about some of these elements I just reviewed with you.
Great, thank you, Paul. So what I want to do is go ahead and bring up the RightScale dashboard here, and I'm going to depend upon the folks that can speak, my co-presenters here, to make sure that this is big enough to see on the screen. I increase the font size a bit. Does that look good to you guys?
Yes, indeed.
Great, thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the details of how RightScale really enables some of the stuff that Paul and Nikki were talking about in terms of really focusing on the application as opposed to the infrastructure and how we facilitate that with RightScale. So the first screen that you're seeing here is the RightScale dashboard. And I want to point out a few things. Actually on the right here is a list of what we call deployments. And these you can actually think of as the applications that we're managing within RightScale. You can see that we have in various different clouds here actually with different technologies, 3-tier web applications. Without belaboring the point, I'll actually dig into a couple of these and show you how they're assembled and the tools that are used within RightScale. So let me actually do that. I'm going to switch over to another tab here. This is that PHP 3-tier web application that's running. And for the sake of this demonstration, this is going to be considered our production deployment for a web application that we're running for our business. So you can see that it consists of 2 load balancers, which are actually HA proxy-based front-end load balancers. This could just as easily be using other technology. In the public cloud in Rackspace, we can use the cloud load balancer, or with Rack Connect, we can actually use the F5 as well. So there's a lot of flexibility that you have there. But in this case, we're actually running virtual machines. You can see that this is running on a Rackspace private cloud based OpenStack cloud here. So we've got the 2 front-end load balancers and we've got a single database here, and I'll explain in a moment why there's just a single database. Then down at the bottom, there's what we call a server array of actual PHP application servers. And what you'll notice is that there's currently 2 servers that are running and operational for the PHP application server array. The array that RightScale builds and monitors here actually defines a minimum number of servers that always need to be running. In this case, that minimum number is 2, but you can change that setting. And we'll actually detect if there's a problem with one of those servers or if it becomes unavailable and make sure that that minimum count of 2 is always running. So that's, again, kind of starting to go down that path of having the application really be the core of what you're monitoring and managing. The application knows that it needs at least 2 servers to handle the requests that are going to come in for the PHP application. RightScale ensures that those 2 servers are always there. Now, we talked a bit about how we can actually run the same workloads across different clouds. So you see that this server, this deployment actually, is running in a Rackspace private cloud. I'm going to switch over to another deployment that's in the same RightScale account and show you what looks very much the same actually. Another deployment that's also running a database server. It has 2 load balancers and it also has that array of PHP application servers. But what you'll notice is we're running, in this case, in the Rackspace public cloud in the Dallas data center. And you'll also notice that the only server that's running is actually the database server. If I can draw your attention up to the top left corner of the screen here, this is actually our disaster recovery deployment. So should there be a problem with your private cloud, the data center that it's in, connectivity to it, power, something of that nature that you simply can't recover from using the automation that RightScale provides, which I'll touch on in a little bit more detail later, you may need to fail over your entire application to another cloud, something that's geographically isolated, that's on different power, that's on a different network. And that's what you can do with actually going to a completely different cloud. Now, the underlying infrastructure, the commodity hardware, maybe even the API that we're calling to provision these servers can be completely different, but you can run exactly the same infrastructure in either location. So in this case, we have just the database server up and running. It's actually a replica of the server that's running in the other deployment. So all of the transactions that are happening in our production deployment on our private cloud are being replicated here. So should we need to fail over to this deployment, it'd be as simple as selecting these two load balancers and the array and actually launching them and starting them up, and then changing over our DNS records for our main website to go over to this particular deployment. So you can see that you really have that flexibility of running the same workloads in any one of those clouds, in any one of the clouds RightScale supports. So I want to touch a little bit on how we do that. In order to do that, I'm actually going to make a quick change to my view here and show what we call our server template. So you can see I've added this column here, server template. And I pointed out at the beginning that we're running 3 different types of servers here. A database manager for MySQL 5.5, a load balancer with HA proxy, and then the array at the bottom is using a PHP application server. This server template is really the magic that RightScale employs to be able to run the same type of server and the same type of workload in a variety of different public or private clouds. And I just want to take a quick moment actually to remind everyone that we will be taking questions at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions that are burning and you want to get answered before, we'll do a live Q&A at the end of the demo and at the end of the webinar. So don't hesitate to submit those in the GoToWebinar screen there. So just to backtrack a little bit, I want to talk about the server template. So this one is actually the server template that defines the database manager for MySQL. So in order to be able to run this same type of server, this same workload across any one of the public or private clouds that we support, we actually start with a base operating system image. And you can see the list of all of them here. For the most part, it breaks down to CentOS version 6.3, Red Hat 6.3, Ubuntu 12.04, and I believe we have a couple of other versions of Ubuntu and CentOS supported in other server templates as well. You can see that each one of these support a different set of clouds. So what this means is that each one of those clouds actually has a different actual binary image, right? You don't have the exact same reference to a CentOS 6.3 that works on KVM and ESXi and Zen Server, for instance. They're actually different images. But what RightScale does is make sure that the content of each of those images, the version of the operating system, the patch level, and the version of the RightScale agent are all exactly the same. So we're starting from a known base in each one of these clouds. What this allows us to do is when we say that we want a database manager for MySQL and we want to run it in Rackspace Open Cloud, the public cloud in London, then when we add this server template to a RightScale deployment and select that cloud, RightScale knows which image to use, and we know that it's the same exact operating system, patch level, and version of RightScale agent on each one of these. The next step in the process after we've added that server to a deployment and actually launched it is, because we're starting with a base image of just the operating system, we need to configure this to be whatever that template describes. In this case, database manager for MySQL. So this is the list of, in this case, chef recipes that actually execute, that make this thing operational and turn it into a database manager. You can see a number of sort of housekeeping things. We set up logging and firewalls and install some tools. Then it gets more interesting down here towards the middle, where we actually install the specific packages and configurations needed for MySQL. And then we actually can, using this script, automatically configure this server to be a slave to another database server that's in the same deployment. The other thing that we include in server templates is operational scripts. So not only do we define what the starting point is for a particular type of server, you can also specify operational scripts that are the day-to-day administrative tasks that you're going to perform on this. It makes it really easy for users to not only set up their own deployments, but then to even manage and maintain those servers going forward, even without necessarily involving an ops team or an IT team to be able to help them with some of those operational tasks. And then lastly, we have decommissioning scripts. So if you do terminate a server or remove it from a deployment, there's some cleanup that's often needed. This is particularly true with PHP or Java or Ruby on Rails or any sort of application server. You're going to want to, when you boot it up, connect it to load balancers, discover database servers, and make sure that it's part of that deployment and that it's ready to go. Conversely, when you terminate that, which you would do in an auto-scaling scenario, you need to then remove it from the load balancers, remove it from the database servers, and so forth. And that's what the decommissioning scripts are there for. So I will switch back to our production PHP 3-tier deployment and talk about a few more things here. So we've covered how RightScale can run the same types of workloads using this server template methodology, and that allows you to configure the same server in the same way regardless of the resource pool of the cloud that you're running it on. RightScale also provides a number of tools for automating changes to this deployment, as well as monitoring the health of this deployment. To illustrate that, I'm going to click into one of the load balancers in our production environment and show you first our monitoring tab. We use a technology called CollectD to pull in monitoring data and information from each one of these servers, and we show them in graphs. CollectD is totally customizable. It's an open source product. So you can actually create your own monitors for specific application metrics or whatever information you are actually concerned about. What I've done now is clicked over to the Alerts tab, where we see all of the actual alerts that we can set up against those monitoring metrics to perform automated tasks. So you can see the majority of them here are actually specified by the server template. This is the name of the server template. And in this case, since it's a load balancer, we want to check things that are common for a load balancer. We want to make sure that Apache is running. We want to make sure that we have sufficient CPU idle and sufficient capacity there. These are all things that are predefined for the server template. The one at the top here is actually a custom one that I've added to this server, which uses a fairly ridiculous, actually, alert metric, which is we want to make sure that the Apache request count is not equal to 0, in which case we can actually escalate to this particular action. So this is where you can use RightScale to monitor your application, and if there's a problem, if Apache's not running, you can actually execute a script to restart Apache. If memory use is too high, maybe you know that there's a cache or a memory leak in some piece of your infrastructure, you can run a script to restart that or to clear that cache. The actions that you can take here are actually very sophisticated. What I'm going to do is open up this alert escalation and show you what this particular one looks like. This one's actually very simple. The first thing it does is just runs a script on this server, and it repeats that every 5 minutes. What we can actually do here is, if this script doesn't solve the problem, if that alert condition persists, we can actually have it escalate to another action. Maybe the next step is that we want to reboot the server. So we want to repeat this, say, every 10 minutes. and escalate if that isn't resolved in 30 minutes. And if we save that, we'll see that this is going to cascade. The first thing it's going to try to do is run a script that will hopefully solve the problem. If that doesn't happen for a specified period of time, the next step is to reboot the server. And perhaps the next step after that is to send an email to a user that can actually go in and assess the problem and try to resolve it. So I'll go back to the Alerts tab once more. I mentioned, obviously, running a script and sending an email are possible actions that you can take from these alerts. The other one that's also very interesting is that we can use any one of these alerts to auto-scale. So if you set an alert that indicates that your infrastructure is under stress, maybe it's Apache requests per second, maybe it's memory use, maybe it's CPU use, whatever makes sense for your application. Each one of these application servers can actually set an alert and talk to that array that I talked about earlier, which I'll switch back to here as well. We can have those application servers or any part of the infrastructure vote against this array to add or remove servers. So again, that real application-centric view. The application knows that it needs more infrastructure, and it can actually request that through RightScale, through the APIs that are supported by the cloud. It doesn't require intervention by ops. It doesn't require intervention by IT. You don't need to submit a ticket. The application knows that it needs more capacity, and it can request it on demand. Conversely, when it no longer sees that peak in load, that kind of spike in requests, it can say, hey, I don't need that infrastructure anymore. Go ahead and return it back to the resource pool. So very, very powerful and focuses very much on what the application needs. If you compare that to a virtualization-only play, you would have to submit a ticket, and an ops or IT person would probably go into a dashboard and increase the amount of CPU or memory that's associated with a particular server. It takes more time, it's a little bit more difficult to reverse, and it's a little bit harder to track unless you're using a ticketing system. In this case, the application knows what it needs, it can request it and get it on demand. The other thing that I wanted to touch on very quickly is the server templates for RightScale, particularly around the database manager, have built-in tools for doing, as I mentioned, replication. So you can replicate a master and slave. Failing over from a slave server and promoting it to master and then changing DNS records is an operational task that you can perform. So if you think about a scenario where you need more database capacity, again, comparing it to that virtualization-only play, what you would do, instead of trying to add resources to the existing database server, you can actually launch an entirely new one, maybe on different hardware, maybe on a different cloud, maybe on a different rack in your own private cloud data center with more capacity. RightScale then configures that to be exactly the same version of the database server that you're using, pulls the latest backup, or even synchronizes with replication with the current running database, and then you're able to switch over to it. Again, giving you that flexibility of running the same type of workload anywhere and really taking advantage of that cloud model where you're able to provision dynamically and add and remove resources. So that covers what I really wanted to show in the demo here. So we have a couple more slides, and I believe Paul's going to cover those and kind of conclude for us.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. So, you know, if you're asking yourself, are you ready to commit to the cloud, which I hope you are, and where do I start? You know, RightScale and Rackspace offer an onboarding process to help you get started quickly. We bring our joint expertise to your organization, and we help define and scope your cloud needs. So, I mean, we started, you know, RightScale specifically back in 2006. In the cloud space, we probably helped customers launch and deploy their applications on the cloud probably more than any other company out there to date. So let me just kind of break through in a little greater detail our 3 phases to help you get started, and we'll wrap up after that and take some questions. So next slide, please. So it really all starts with scoping and design. You know, if you're coming to the table with a commitment to this new philosophy that we've been talking about today, and really talking about decoupling the application layer, transformation of your data layer, and then really looking at how organizationally you can evolve and enhance adopting this methodology, we definitely can help you with, you know, project scoping call, kicking off, bringing in our architects and engineers to help you with your team. You know, the Rackspace team specifically will help tailor your compute, storage, and networking resources to help optimize, you know, your application to run on your own private cloud or their public cloud, but better than anyone else. So we'll come up with some deliverables to give you an architecture design and really a step-by-step work plan through the entire process. Next slide, please. And the next stage is really around project planning and guidance. So we're going to enable you to use RightScale pre-built templates to speed up your efforts. Some of the alerting and escalation and monitoring aspects that are built into our templates that Ryan shared with you in the demo that you can use as is, or we can help you edit off of. You know, we'll definitely advise you from our experience on how you best want to do your application deployment and manage them on an ongoing basis. And Rackspace provides a lot of value there. They manage the largest OpenStack cloud in the world, and with their ability to manage both their public cloud and their private cloud, it's really just think of it as a trusted partner that really just extends their arms out beyond their own cloud and encompasses their operations and performance around your cloud as well. So you're getting Class A support there. We can provide you with both OpenStack training as well as RightScale training to really get your teams up to speed and track the progress of the project across the entire timeline. Next slide, please. And then we finally get to the point we're all excited to get to, which is the go live support. So right before that, we'll definitely do testing, optimization, and do all the automation testing. Will it fail over? Will it handle the load? And so forth. Coupled with the Rackspace fanatical support on the infrastructure side and the OS, they really will bring expertise to how best layer in the OpenStack orchestration layer, and with our API connection with RightScale, really get your servers launching and humming very well. They offer a lot of additional monitoring that's very complementary to RightScale, and promoting some patches and upgrades to OpenStack as it iterates over time, like going from Fulcrum to Grizzly and so forth. We're also putting together a new joint support model between the two companies, which is our no handoff policy. So when you combine a Rackspace and RightScale cloud solution in place, you really have the best of both worlds. You have your infrastructure and application support teams working unified and together and providing a solution to you. And then in ending, we'll definitely do a post-out evaluation review of the launch and discuss with you next phases of planning and where you want to go from there. So it's really a well thought out project and program, and we invite you to come join us on that endeavor. Next slide, please. So in the end, in summary, I just want to say, why RightScale and Rackspace. We really want to have you keep the why in mind. Why do I want to do this? Why do I want to go there? And we truly believe that cloud is a new and better way to deliver IT to your business. And we'll help you get there. We'll help you escape the old school way of doing things, and really make you a hero within your organization. And really, there's really no better group of partners to focus on than Rackspace and RightScale. RightScale to date has launched roughly about 5.5 million cloud servers to its platform to date, and and Rackspace is far and away the clear leader in starting OpenStack, starting the OpenStack initiative and providing support and really showing the proven success and customer track record of leveraging and utilizing OpenStack in production environments. So with that, next slide, please. We'll turn it over to the Q&A session. We do have a lot of questions coming in. Please continue to send them in, and we will, if need be, stay beyond the top of the hour to make sure we answer as many questions as possible. Just before, if you need to get a hold of RightScale or Rackspace, you can contact us. Reach out to the toll-free number here to RightScale. And also you can come visit us. Both of us will be attending the OpenStack conference in Portland next week. So hope to see you there. And then also the following week in San Francisco, the 25th and 26th in San Francisco, we will be at the RightScale Compute Conference. Rackspace is our platinum event sponsor, and we'll have many in-depth sessions talking about some of the topics we highlighted here today. So we hope to see you there. And with that, I'll maybe turn it over to Nikki to maybe take some of the first questions coming in.
Awesome. And we are also co-hosting an epic party at the OpenStack Summit on Wednesday night. So you should see an invitation if you're a registered OpenStack attendee. We hope to see you there as well. So I'm looking at a question here. When does Rackspace expect to support OpenStack's Grizzly release? So that is a question that it depends on if you're talking about public cloud or private cloud. So our public cloud is already running elements of Grizzly. We have fully embraced a continuous integration model. So typically when Trunk is released, we run it through a series of unit tests, and then we push code. We've pushed about 1,500 live non-disruptive code updates since our next-gen cloud server platform was launched last year. So literally pushing code every day. For private cloud, we should have Grizzly as part of our free package software that's available on our website towards the end of Q2. So probably within the next release, which will happen in just a couple of months. And Paul, I think you have a question here.
Okay. Here's the question. Let's see. There it is. Long answer, please. Can you describe the RightScale components needed to do this? I believe they're referring to the cloud maturity slide in slide number 12, and I believe that's the cloud maturity slide. So that's a great question. So really, to get to that level of application automation, it really incorporates multiple facets. One is having a deep and meaningful API connection so you can literally have the ability to launch and decommission servers as needed. Second is the configuration management piece and being able to unbundle and script out your applications in write scripts, your own language, Chef, Puppet, and so forth. And then to really go into that multi-cloud model of if you're doing hybrid, is the use of templates. So you can build everything once and launch anywhere versus having image sprawl, for example, and having a set of images and having, if you're running in 2 clouds or more, those stacks are just going to keep on scaling pretty dramatically. And then lastly, it's the monitoring and our RightLink agent that allows the ability for the ability for all that to work in unison. As Ryan showed in his demo, it's really the synchronization of monitoring, alerting, the use of templates with configuration management, and the API integration to the Rackspace, public and private clouds that really makes this application automation happen. I hope I answered your question. If not, send in a follow-up and I can I'll go further if need be.
Great, thanks, Paul. There's another question here that I'd like to take a crack at. The question is, how important are consistent APIs between private and public clouds for workload migration? So hopefully in the demo I kind of showed and explained a little bit that really, at least from a RightScale perspective, we're not too concerned about API consistency. We're really that abstraction layer that makes sure that we're making the correct API calls to provision, to configure networking, to attach storage, to set up network security, to handle all of those things. If you were looking to solve the problem yourself and writing your own tools to provision and to automate your cloud deployments, it might be a different story. Having the same API across your public and private clouds would save you a lot of time. You wouldn't have to develop a completely different set of tools for calling the API of your private cloud versus your public cloud. That's really the power, a big part of the power that RightScale brings to cloud management, is that you don't have to worry about the underlying cloud, just the same as the cloud in general. OpenStack and Rackspace are abstracting the commodity hardware. You don't need to know that it's running on a Supermicro box on a particular rack in a particular data center. The same is true for RightScale. We bring that up a level. We don't even really need to know that it's running OpenStack on KVM or that it's running OpenStack on Zen Server or that it's AWS running on a custom version of Zen Server. That's meaningless to us. It's really just that we have a custom image that is a base operating system that runs exactly the same in any one of the clouds that we support. We know the correct API calls to make on your behalf. So you can really focus on application development and what your application needs in terms of its infrastructure footprint and so forth. So
great. So there's two questions here. I think I can bundle them together. The first one I don't correctly follow, but I think the second one falls in line with it. The first one was, what is the value of RightScale in this demo, and how it helps others looking to implement cloud? Is there a more comprehensive management solution here? And then the one that I think ties with it is, this material has been focused on making apps cloud aware and ready for hybrid. What if you want hybrid to offer infrastructure as a service, to your internal users, not cloud admins? The tool seems oriented towards cloud admins. Good points there. The value of RightScale in the demo is just to show the granular control that folks can have in literally provisioning their application. It's not just like a throwing application in a PaaS model. You have the controls of deciding what are the size of your instances, how do you want it to scale, how do you want it to be resilient and fail over, what are those thresholds that you want to put in place. It's very customizable. But that is, can be very overwhelming for a typical end user who just wants to get their servers up and running. So we do have this concept called the IT vending machine. RightScale not only has a back-end API that speaks to Rackspace, but it also has a front-end API that allows you to put your own and create your own GUI interface. And it really allows you to show or mask as much as you want. So if really all you want is push-button simplicity for your end users to say, I need a Drupal or a WordPress environment with a click of a button and everything behind it that you saw in Ryan's demo is masked, that availability is there, and you can tailor it to suit your own needs.
Great, thanks, Paul. Yeah, I think we've actually answered all the questions that came in. So if anyone has any last moment questions that they'd like to add, feel free to do that. We'll possibly stay for just a couple more minutes here. But we want to thank you for joining the webinar, and again, don't forget that we're going to be in attendance at OpenStack Summit next week, and then also at RightScale Compute the following week, April 25th and 26th.
Okay. Oh, there is one more question here, Brian. So, what differentiates you from vCloud or Service Center? And maybe I can tag that on with you, Ryan. So it's a good question. You know, a lot of people say they have cloud solutions. I mean, the real thing is vCloud, for example, is predicated based on the ESX hypervisor. It's designed to help manage that more effectively. VMware acquired a company called Dynamic Ops that had some minimal integration with AWS, for example, and they put that into their vCloud Enterprise edition. It's a fairly expensive solution, but you know, it gives you an unbalanced, in my opinion, framework of when you're using vCloud to manage your existing VMware environment, you pretty much get that full control at the infrastructure level that you've grown accustomed to. But you know, when you use that to launch it into Amazon, it pretty much gives you that green dot. You can launch and destroy a server. You can see it running, but that's kind of the limit of its multi-cloud functionality. So it's kind of apples and oranges depending on which resource pool that you're utilizing vCloud to manage. Service Center, I'm not as familiar with. Obviously, it's the Microsoft solution stack that's focused on Hyper-V. It has extended cross support for other hypervisors as well. But again, these tools are more hypervisor-centric management systems versus this open cloud model that us, along with Rackspace, share and focusing on the functionality being driven at the application layer. I don't know, Ryan, if you had any other comments to that question.
No, I think you covered it well. That really kind of shows, again, that the focus on the application-centric view that we kind of promote. And obviously, you know, using RightScale gives you the opportunity to really run across any one of those resource pools. So that's the focus for us as well. vCloud and System Center are obviously both focused on their individual technology stacks with not a lot of support for others. We try to be as open as possible. It's the same message that Rackspace has as well in terms of the open cloud and that ability to run your workload anywhere. So thanks for that, Paul. I think that actually covers it. I apologize for cutting you off early on that last question. I had missed that one. So one more plug real quick for the OpenStack Summit next week. I believe all three of us, Paul, Nikki, and I, will be there. And then RightScale Compute on April 25th and 26th will be there as well. If there were any questions that we did miss, we'll go ahead and answer those via email. So thanks again for attending.
Thank you.